This is going to be fun because by the time you finish this call, you're going to think it's late Monday. And then how good is Friday going to feel? Just saying. You'll feel like it's Wednesday. So quick reminder, if you have any upcoming out of office, please add it onto the list. Main things for this one is so that if you're needing something from someone specific, you can be a bit aware of possible timeout coming up. What we may need to do, just a heads up, no change right now, what we may need to do in the future is do a bit more alignment and just make sure we have got enough people to cover things. So visibility for now is our kind of goal. We'll see how things go. So we have an announcement. Steve's not on the call, but please be aware of the change to the review apps, which hopefully is a good thing for us. So we'll see about that one. Check out Engineer Week in Review if you need more details. And Vladimir, you have the first discussion item.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Should I bring it here or maybe systems demo or systems sync? But we discussed the persistency level of pre-environment. And since we built like the second cluster and we instantiated GitLab instance there, playing around all these, deployment rollouts and progressive rollouts gonna bring inconsistency in both clusters, I would say. Therefore, Scarbeck suggested to spin up yet another persistent layer for pre-environment or yet another pre-environment instance, basically pre-instance, where we can just, focus on release related tasks for pre, and we can have a whole environment dedicated for our playground or something, our MVP for Istio.
And is the question here like, should we do it? Like, is it a good idea or how to do it?
Yeah, the question is, should we do that? How we can handle if we build a new cluster, how we can switch it to, our release tool into the new cluster, or maybe we can just, since we're touching pre-environment only once a month, we can just leave it like this and then bring it back to the actual state when, like 2 days before the release.
What would it be a third option for like infra testing to take place on a different environment? So pre goes back to being for releases?
That's my question. What is the best option?
But technically speaking, if we think about the name of the environment, ERCs has nothing to share with production because we never deploy the ERCs to production. So as a pre-prod environment, it makes more sense for testing configuration changes. But this is just a naming thing, okay?
I was thinking more about how much tooling change we may need to do to plug in your. It was just a question. I don't have a strong opinion.
I think there's no tooling in our side because it's an omnibus integration. I think this is something I was discussing with Balu this morning, where it was actually questioning why we have deployment starting from release tools and deployment starting from omnibus. It was asking, is it actually the code in use? Can I remove it? And we would say no, because pre and releases are triggered by Omnibus itself. When it completes the package building, it triggers the deployment. So there's nothing in on our
That's interesting.
tool that handle this, except deployer, obviously, deployer.
And deployer is what reaches, I think it's deployer that reaches out to QA and executes a bunch of QA. So there's a lot of setup that's already been done on the existing pre-prod instance to enable QA to work as effectively as it does. So I linked to the issue, one of the two issues that I've created related to this. And Amy, I saw that you had created an issue where we just need to update our steps to make sure pre-prod is a running step ahead of a release candidate being deployed. So that's probably worth mentioning here as well. It's my opinion that we should probably try to return pre-prod back to a state where delivery could use it as is. That way it's just not interfering with release procedures. And that way we could test unfettered without worrying about just accidentally destroying pre-prod. This is just my opinion, but if others would like to voice their concern, there's some issues that we could continue this conversation on too. I do think at some point we do need to make a decision kind of soon and go ahead and begin executing on it. That way we keep Vladimir unblocked on the work that we're working on there, and that we make sure that we are unblocked come closer to the 22nd.
I agree. So I have a few things, some of them might be questioned. One is, I believe Quality use pre for nightly testing. We should validate that, because if they do, they are assuming it's a working environment. So we want to take that on. Vladimir, do you want to maybe ask Quality?
I will. The only concern I see is, for me personally, it's like the building the whole new persistent layer might take indefinite amount of time. So I don't know how long it's going to take to create new persistent layer. But ideally, we should have like one persistent layer per environment and 2 clusters connected to it. And I don't really know how to do that, honestly. I never done it before.
Sounds like a good learning opportunity for anyone who would also like to participate. It's really not terribly difficult, and depending on how we want to go through it, I kind of listed off one potential solution for that. But that's just one potential solution. You know, we could handle this in a multitude of ways.
In terms of global endpoint, that's going to be easy. We can call this environment whatever integration or something like that. And we can create Cloudflare load balancer like int.gitlab.com, and then connect both clusters, both newly created clusters, to this environment and keep pre as it is. But my biggest concern is persistency. I don't know how to do that.
I suggest that what would be worth doing is, I think the question, I do agree with Skarbek. I think we at some point we probably need to do this. I think the when we do this probably depends on how much longer do we want to have a pre-environment for testing, like intensively for testing. I think it's been fine for, we want to do something for a few weeks and then we come off it. But if this is we want to have pre-environment available for testing extensive changes for the next quarter, we should probably do something about that. So that might be one way of helping make a decision of should we do something or not. And then I think it will probably be a case of evaluating the options and doing some estimating on which one is going to be the cheapest. Like, I think some of the work Graham has done on release environments could help get release prep off pre. So that might be a simpler way to go. But we need to evaluate those. So I'd suggest like probably those are the questions people may have the answers, but we should maybe take those the issues and see if we can narrow down on that one.
Are there any particular data that we injected in this pre-environment for testing or whatever, or we just like push in the data, run the test, and drop in the data?
At the time when it was stood up, QA required a lot of manual bootstrapping of the various objects, mainly users and tokens and stuff. That all had to be done manually.
Okay, then we keep it as it is and create a new one then.
You want to validate, Vladimir, do you want to ask Quality firstly about what they expect from pre? Do they use it pre? And if they are using it, what are they running? What are they expecting to have? And then that might answer that bit, and then we can validate the options. But I think if we need to be in this state for another quarter, then doing the work to separate this out would be a good thing. Awesome, great, sounds good. Thanks for bringing that up, Vladimir. Alessio, you have the next discussion.
Yeah, so the description is not really, I will explain what I intended when I wrote this.
That's right, you talk.
So yeah, I was partially inspired by when we used to have the fire drills back in the days here in our team. I was thinking about maybe we should do something like that with some sort of focus on runbooks and checklists. So instead of coming with idea on scenarios like we did last time when we did that, I think Marin was still our managers back then. So something different, which is everyone can find and search for a runbook or a checklist or something that doesn't make sense to them. And we use this as a test run with the team. So we say all together, how do we perform this task? And everyone can try to say, this is how I will do it. I'm talking about the things that are not trivial, right? So things that not always happen, and they may require a deeper knowledge in how release tools behaves or things like that. So, and this is basically the idea. So my intention on this is maybe we can build a refresher on how release tools behaves today, because we changed many things in the past. So something like an explanation on the process, which is a bit more deeper than the overall general documentation that we have. And then based on that, we say, okay, we know this is how it works. This is the checklist we have, all the tasks. Everyone can find what they want to discuss and run as an experiment through all the team, so that we find bugs, we improve our runbooks and things like that. I think, Vladimir, you have a question.
Yeah, well, I do have a suggestion that coming from my long-term on-call rotations in the past. And we did, as a part of incident management in multiple places, we played Wheel of Misfortune game, where we are replaying incidents. And since we are talking about like sharing the knowledge and understanding how things work, we probably once in a while do like Wheel of Fortune game, where we are re-executing and re-evaluating our run books. And we can just learn from that and improve on the run books as well.
I think it's a good idea. What I was unsure about is that many of our procedures and runbook leaves, say, permanent marks in the Git history of the product itself. So, and some of those will actually take hours and hours to run. And so how to approach this? I mean, we can start with an idea. So I have this problem. How can we solve that? And we see as a team, if we agree on a solution, if we have competing solution, multiple solution, and then maybe based on that, we decide, let's schedule our tests run. And then we think a bit more truly about how can we test that scenario that seems controversial, or that it's or that doesn't work as we expected, without affecting GitLab.com or. Yeah, I mean, instead of just doing this on the spot, we plan a bit more how we want to simulate that problem. Or another option, which is still good, I think, is kind of reviewing what really happened in the past. So as a release manager, I've been run through this as being really stressful. It's been really difficult, whatever. Maybe I can just try to to write a summaries and try to replay this together as a team. So there are many opportunities like how to debug failure in the pipeline, things that are kind of really hard to write down in a runbook, right? Because every problem may be different. And so, yeah, but seeing how others will approach something like this together may help just building confidence and helping with debugging those failures.
And another thing which used to be very useful in this Wheel of Misfortune game is like, we should have if we are trying to, you know, replay the old incidents or run books or something, someone should be not like, okay, that was the incident, that's how I run it, and that's how I fixed it. But apparently there should be one person who is leading this game. He's saying like, okay, that actually happened, and the person who is kind of who is running this this game, like who is the player, yes. So he is actually suggesting, like looking for the run book, suggesting the steps, and that it can be, you know, it can be absolutely like the data can be absolutely synthetic, you know, like we can pretend that we pushed something or something like that, but it's important that it's not the person who actually had this issue or who wrote this run book actually plays it, but you test it on someone else.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. So this is why I say if someone wants to test something that found in checklists or in runbooks, I mean, I'm kind of expecting that they didn't wrote it, right? Because if you wrote something down in the runbooks, probably you experienced it, and so maybe you have more context than what you wrote down in the thing. And but again, yeah, if we're saying instead we are replaying something that happened, then it will be interesting, say, for maybe the release manager that experienced the problem to kind of lead it, but not solve the problem, as you were mentioning. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Cool. So it sounds like we have enough agreement to give it a shot. Would somebody mind taking an action to identify something that we could use to talk through our first one? So something in a process, a template, or a run book that we could use to kick this off, or an error message, or just something that was a, what is going on? This would be worth digging into further. Ahmed, thank you, superstar. And I think it would be a really good one. Like, it's not like not at all. I don't think this should be a one-off. I hope it's something which we can figure out a way to make this a really nice, repeatable, regular process so that we can just constantly iterate on this. So for those of you who didn't volunteer, your turn will come. Start looking. We should build a backlog because I think it would be a good one to rotate through. But yeah, Ahmed, thank you. Let's figure out logistics on this.
Sorry, the last suggestion, since it's like a wheel of fortune or misfortune, we can pick up the person who is going to play it randomly. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Nice. So Ahmed, when you found one that you want, it doesn't have to be urgent, but when you have something you want to pick, give us a shout and we can figure out logistics on organizing a session to go through. Sound like a plan? Awesome. Thanks for suggesting this, Alessio. I think this will be super helpful because there is a lot. I would rather we didn't all have to experience the pain points before we knew how to deal with them. So hopefully this will give us a bit of a knowledge share so we can actually all learn from the misfortunes. Cool. Great. So release managers, hand over to you.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So my internet is not stable, so I'm sorry about this. So please bear with me while going through this. Let me share the screen. You can see the screen, right? So last week, let me hide this. Last week we had only one incident, or maybe let's put it like merge train incident. We couldn't sync between canonical and security release, security repo on 26th of June. So we kept deploying, but actually the packages has the same SHA or SHA commit. So basically, it seems normal, but like we had some hiccups there. We fixed that the next day after a couple of trials, and then we had normal week. And then today, this week, we also like started a bit slow, but then I think we are normal now. Unfortunately, we have an incident today as well with the staging migration. So this is blocking us until it's fixed. So let's see about this tomorrow. Deployment frequency. Also, I think it seems normal. I don't really know how to read this, but I think it's normal. Let me switch to the last 90 days. And for the lead time, let me refresh. This is also like 26th, 27th of June. This is the hiccup I'm talking about. I'm not sure if this is the reason it's visible here or not.
That's the merge train problem, right? So it
Yeah.
was slowing down everything. Yeah, that's the reason.
And then we became like normal again most of the week. Deployment blockers. Let me refresh. We had like 18 hours. I rounded to 18 hours because there was no 16 hours. It was only one blocker, basically the merge train thing. So I just rounded to 18 hours. I think this is normal procedure.
Agreed. I think once we go beyond 16 hours, you may as well say 18. It was terrible. We were in terrible zone, so that's fine. Cool.
All right. Any other questions?
Well,
Did I
I
miss
want to
anything?
say
I
that.
hope I didn't miss anything.
Now, I wanted to say that even though we had this problem, and so it was terrible, it's actually interesting to see that those metrics are reflecting what we experienced, right? Because it kind of gave a sense of what we're doing every week, right? So it's working.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's reassuring when the metrics reflect our experiences, because then we can start to build the story to tell other people. So yes, I agree. Awesome. Thanks for going through that. And let's see how we go to this week. So yeah, lead time will be a little longer, I guess, with friends and family, but that's okay. That's okay. Awesome. Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up on this recording? I just want to mention, actually, I'm going to pre-book this. So just as a mention, I dropped it in on Slack. We have the engagement survey results for the department. Unfortunately, we don't have any delivery breakdowns of the reports because both teams were below the minimum numbers to maintain confidentiality. That's okay. It's a shame, but it's okay. We will work from the platform results. But what I think would be good to do is for maybe on Monday in Delivery Weekly, have a bit of a chat about how we're doing on that, whether there's something interesting, if anyone has any ideas about things they'd like to see change as a result. The platform results won't exactly represent delivery. So I think that's where a discussion becomes more useful, because we can talk about, does it feel like it reflects what we are seeing in delivery, other things we want to focus on, and hopefully see if we can contribute back some suggestions for improvements. Cool. Cool. Okay, great. So I'll stop this recording.